All right, hi guys, Lindsay Dragon with Parenting Autism United. We're doing another Ask the Pros today. We have Rachel Martin and Mary Vanesco from Well Nurtured Development. They're both occupational therapists, and we will turn the camera around in just a moment. We have a great topic today. Feel free to ask any questions in the comments during this live shoot, and then at the end, all the information will be plugged into the comments. And I'm still so new to this, and I feel like I'm one of those videos that I watch all the time, so bear with me if I'm like, but we do have participants in the office like we do every day during the week, during the day. So if you see individuals walking around or you hear, any noises, we are operating and functional, like we're open all the time. So, and we're also on the roundabout. So if you hear some beeping and some choice language, the window isn't open, so we should be good, but you never know. It's pretty intense out there sometimes. But yeah, so I'm going to turn it around. And we're going to introduce Mary Vanesco, do a little wave, and then we have Rachel Martin. So ladies, just give us a little intro about who you are and how you know each other and how we're here today.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for having us here. This is really exciting. So my name is Mary Vanesco, as Lindsay Dragon said. I am the owner of Well Nurtured Development. It was founded approximately 3.5 years ago, came to Northeast PA. We currently operate a family-centered care outpatient clinic, actually quite a few at this time.
Yes.
We're currently in the Luzerne and Lackawanna County area. We have a clinic in Wyoming, 44. We're operating out of Misericordia University, and we also are in Clark Summit and Pittston.
Very cool. Yeah. Hold on one second. I'm just going to flip it back around. We'll do this a handful of times. Mary and I met a while back when she first started, before she had the clinics, and that's how we became to know each other, through occupational therapy and some super fun events through her team. So we were neighbors. We shared a wall for almost 2 years, I want to say, maybe. So when we moved from the Wyoming location to the Dallas location, it was very sad because we didn't have as much, interaction with all the families that you guys, it became like a family, I feel like, with all your clients, and then the people, they would just come back, they would go from side to side. So it's so nice. And the first thing we said today is we have a very nice parking lot in the back with, it's a lot of traffic, but if anyone has been to the other location, parking is tricky.
Very tricky.
Tricky. So back on you ladies. Rachel, tell us a little bit about you.
Hi, I'm Rachel Martin. I'm an occupational therapist, and I'm also a DIR 4-time advanced practitioner. I just moved here about a year ago from New York City, where I worked at a DIR 4-time school called the Rebecca School. And, moving back here, I came to work at an ABA school, which we had differences of approaches, and I left, and that's where I met Mary, and we just kind of had the same approach to care and family-centered approach. So, and we just started working together.
Yeah.
Now, are you from New York, or were you from here and then moved and came back?
So my husband's from this area. We have almost 2-year-old. So we wanted to be close to family, but
awesome.
I moved around every 3 years, so I'm kind of all over the place.
All right. And good old Northeast PA. I'm from Oklahoma, so I understand the transplant life. So I'm here for you. But that is amazing. And DIR therapy, that is the overall topic of today. And I'm going to flip it around real quick. So one of the things that I consistently try to do in my life, I'm going to pump up other ladies. I'm like, I love your boots, I love your purse, because I really do, though. It's not empty, compliments or anything like that. But the other thing that, as a parent, it took me a long time to do was to compliment somebody on their relationship with their child. And that, to me, is like I want to say, like the ultimate testament of what are you doing because I want what you have. And as a parent, that's also tough because you're also admitting to yourself that there's something missing. And it's really hard I can't keep doing these. I keep getting emotional. But it's important to know that there's things out there that other families are doing, and you can do it too. Or, arm yourself with knowledge, arm yourself with education. So the common denominator between most of those families who I would say, listen, I love what you're doing, I love the relationship that you have, please tell me how I can get that too. And most of the time it was floor therapy, floor time, they called it DIR therapy. And then I would say, well, who did you use? And almost every time, oh, she's not in the area anymore. And then we would find out that somebody was doing it, but then we weren't really comfortable with our schedule changes in order to participate. So we're still new to it as the Dragon household. But I can say realistically, it was just something that I was the most interested in from a very early age, and it really came down to me being envious of that relationship with the parent. So DIR therapy.
Well, I just wanted to say one thing on your story. You're always so vulnerable, and I love that. That builds connection, and you're so good at building connection. You always have been, and I think sharing your vulnerability and your emotion is exactly what Rachel and I strive to do in sessions, whether it's our occupational therapy sessions and DIR. It's really relationship based, and I'm going to let the expert on DIR talk a little bit more about that, but really building relationships. I just get the chills when I hear about you talking about parent and children's relationships, because that's not always the focus, right? It's always the focus on doing more or not
How many
doing
words
enough,
do we
or-
have? How many?
Exactly.
Everything.
And really, it's just really a strength-based approach that the base of it is relationships. So I love that you pointed that out. So I'll give the floor to Rachel.
Yes. Well, where to begin? I think just highlighting that, DIR floor time is a relationship-based approach. And, working with people on the spectrum or neurodiverse children, their core challenges are in relating, thinking, and communicating.
Right.
And so those are bases for relationship building, right? So first off, I guess I should explain DIR, like what does it stand for? It stands for Developmental Individual Differences and Relationship-Based Model.
I would have never guessed that.
No?
I thought I thought it meant direct therapy.
Big words.
Yeah, direct therapy. That was as far as I got.
So it's really the framework of thinking about, their development, where they are with their functional emotional development. It starts at relating and regulation and shared attention.
Yeah.
And then being able to engage and relate to others, having that shared joy, feeling that connectedness to each other, and then having that purposeful two-way communication. It's not just one way, right?
Yeah.
Having opening circles and closing them, to have that intentionality.
I think a lot of parents, and I got messages as within this last week about not having a connection, and it's something that you may not know you're missing until you can see it in somebody else. And that's kind of how I felt as a parent. I was like, we don't do that. And you try not to compare yourself, but you can't help but be envious of that type of a relationship. But some people think they can't get it with autism, and then other times, you can. I didn't know how to work with the speech, how to break down a conversation, but until I worked with a speech therapist. So this is exactly what you do. You teach it, and then the parents can model it and take it home, right?
So yes, and I think a lot of it too is that pre-verbal communication, right? How do we use our affect? How do we create those symbols to make meaning, right? Like when you're having that social connection and you're seeing someone's face, and what does that face look like? What does it mean? Are they happy? Are they sad? To make meaning to something.
And I think one of the biggest things that, the feedback we get at Well Nurtured with our OTs is that we just, parents often say, we love to watch you first. Like, we love to see the modeling, because that's so helpful for us to carry that over at home. some people don't even know where to start or how to pick up on kids' cues. And when it's their own child, like you said, it feels uncomfortable to even say that. So that first step of kind of modeling it for the parent without judgment, and then them realizing, oh, I could do that. Like, that's simple. That's a simple, cue you just picked up on. I'm going to do that at home. So I think for us, the modeling piece is really huge. For the parents to come in and be present in the sessions, and that's why a family-centered approach has been so successful for us. Just to begin that, you said that pre-verbal communication and just picking up on cues.
I'm going to flip it around real quick. Being present at the location where you work in Wyoming, and also just being a parent where I'm in settings where OT, speech, or whatever, or special events even. I see so many parents, it's like, okay, this is almost a break for them because somebody else is working with their child and they get to breathe, which is definitely noted. You definitely take the break when you need it. However, these are the opportunities that you have to change not only their life but yours, in a relationship that lasts the lifetime. And we struggle with participation on all levels. Is that something that you see? As much as you want to take a family-based approach, that doesn't mean that the family understands it. Is that something that you guys see across the board with you? Or not across the board, but often?
Yeah, I would say, there are definitely gaps, across families that we do see. And I think we were just talking about this before. There's so many pressures on parents today that create the disconnect. And it's not to blame the parents. It's just the way of the world right now. And
sorry, real quick. It's like, my house is dirty because I'm playing with my kids. Well, no. I mean, there's truth to that, but then there's also clean up after,
Right. So there's a balance there.
Yes.
There's a balance, but I just think societal pressures have created the disconnect. I think there's a lot of layers to it, but that's one thing that I see. That, technology, so on and so forth. We can name 100 right now.
Yeah.
Is there a common thread amongst families? Absolutely. But once they come in, they relax. They feel that it's a non-stressful, play-based environment where, we're here for them just as much as the child. I think it becomes more of an accepted model and an appreciated model where they feel like, oh wow, like I actually am really getting benefit out of being at each session. Do parents have their days where they're tired and they're closing
Absolutely,
their eyes?
yeah.
Sure, go ahead, close your eyes. That's okay for a few minutes or the half hour that you're in there. But the overarching goal is for them to carry over what we're doing at home, because we don't want kids to be in therapy forever. That's not our goal. We don't want them to be,
right.
In the clinics for the rest of their lives.
And one of the things that I think that we struggle with is that one of the only things that insurance companies cover is ABA therapy. And whether that works for your child or not, for my child, it worked. It definitely worked. But I kind of wish we would have been able to meld the two and have both. But that's the trouble that we had too, is even if we wanted to do it, it was all private pay. And that's the way the world works. But at the time, I couldn't do it. Now, that doesn't mean that my situation was the same all the time. But that's kind of, why is it not something that is insurance-based most of the time?
It's gonna get there. I feel like in the next 2 years, New Jersey just passed, Illinois, Minnesota. I'm strongly advocating for Pennsylvania, using our state representatives. I think, getting parents,
Which might change today.
And I was thinking about it, what a lovely day to talk about advocacy, right?
Right.
Because it's all about having choices, right? And if you only have ABA, you're not having a choice.
It makes no
right?
sense.
And
it makes no sense.
Especially for these neurodiverse kids that have so many special individual needs and disabilities, how do you box them into one approach, right?
Yeah.
It may not work for everyone.
Yeah.
And I also just want to say on that, most of the community knows now what sensory means, right? We have
Yeah.
sensory rooms, we have sensory processing disorders, sensory processing difficulties. It took years for that to be covered by insurance.
Right.
And even still to date, you know, we have sensory integration therapy as a billing code, but some insurances don't cover it,
Yeah.
right?
One of these days, we're going to get somebody in insurance to talk to
Right.
us. I don't know who it's going to be. They're going
Yeah.
to have to be
That's a good
incognito
idea.
with the voice changer.
Yeah.
We're going to have to do that.
But it doesn't mean we can't utilize that in our treatment. It doesn't
Right.
mean that that has to be completely disregarded because it's not fully covered.
Right.
So I think that even though it's not fully covered yet by the state, you know, Rachel's approach with her lens, you know, and her advanced certification lends itself to all treatments with OT.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is I still take insurance.
Right.
I can still treat your kid.
So the other, I'm going to just flip it for a second just so that you guys can relax your shoulders a little bit. But this is supposed to be super casual for anyone who didn't already get that vibe. That's the vibe here. And really, it comes down to a simple conversation. Asking questions that typically you may not get when you're talking to a professional in a professional setting, simply because they might work for somebody else and they want to tell you, but then they can't. I hated that. Like, I really want to tell you, but I can't. And I'm like, then don't say that.
Yeah.
Because now I really want to hurt you. So, forget that. But, so, with this therapy, do you get people who really take it as play therapy is not a real thing? Because if you don't understand it, and it's not that it's not a real thing, but it's not something that they should put their time into. That's kind of the question, because I'm like,
Yeah.
play therapy, what?
I think it's hard initially when a family is so used to an ABA approach and then switching over to floor time, because in the beginning, you know, we kind of, it's a little slow moving because we're forming that relationship,
Right.
And just getting to know the kid, following their lead. Whereas, you know, ABA has such a strict, you know, schedule, or they have a activity or something that they're like, you're doing this, right?
Yeah.
Whereas floor time is very like following the child's lead and then kind of trying to get them into a shared world, a shared experience, right? So the sessions definitely look different.
So we're going to take a pause for just a few minutes. We're in the middle of a transition, so we are going to just enjoy a very light conversation, and we're going to get through the next transition here for one of our participants. So in the interim, I'll turn it back on me, and we're going to just take a pause on that for a second. But in the interim, I want to just explain again to anyone who's tuning in that this series is about connecting local NEPA families with other local resources. So as much as I want a link that you send me or you share with me, if it's not something that we can do right here today, sometimes it's just not worth me putting my time in. We just have a comment from Ashley. We would love to work play therapy into our project launch grant project. We are looking for professionals who are trained. So it's definitely not just you guys. It is definitely out there. So that's awesome. Thank you, Ashley. And then one of these things that we want to make sure that we do is connect the families with you guys if they have more questions before. Like, this is just, you know, so we're gonna, any type of resource information we always put in the comments, and then this goes onto YouTube as well. And then it gets posted into our newsletter and on our website. And so the connection pieces will always be there for families. So, but this is part of a day in life at PAU. We have individuals who come in during the day, during the week. We do weeknight events, weekend events. Like, it's all in our newsletter and on everything. And it's also by appointment. So that's something that we can always do, is offer the by appointment onlys.
Nope.
So, so we're gonna have more friends. Hi, how are you? Good. We will be with you in just a few minutes, okay? So we are going to flip this back around to Mary
I think actually Rachel had the floor.
and Rachel.
We're just gonna talking a little bit about the differences between DIR and why a parent may or may not find it beneficial because it's called play therapy, and how you can maybe highlight a little bit more for us that process. And I think you were just beginning to say that it is a slower process because we're building those relationships.
Yeah.
And also, thinking about the parents' functional, emotional, developmental capacities. Like, what does their regulation look like? What sets them off? How do they co-regulate? How do we attune that relationship together with their child to have that meaningful?
Would you be able to explain a little bit about how you would start with a DIR therapy approach? Like, what would a parent expect on a first visit versus like a fifth visit?
Good question. So, I guess in the initial assessment, I'm just getting to know the kid. I want to know, I usually have a phone call before we have our in-person session just because I don't like talking about the child in front of the child. So want to know from the parent's perspective, what are their challenges? What are they seeing at home? What is the child like? What are their interests? What are their most enjoyable moments?
Right.
And what are their most challenging moments?
Pairing, basically.
Yes.
Right, with the first visit.
Yeah.
And then, like, obviously with OT and, speech and things like that, those are those measurable outcomes. What does a measurable outcome look like in DIR therapy?
That is a great question. So we go by the functional, emotional, developmental capacities. So like I said, FEDC 1 is regulation and shared attention. So how are they able to stay regulated when they're stressed or when they're upset?
Right.
Or, do they need co-regulation? Can they self-regulate? In, engaging and relating, how are they sharing attention and how do they feel joy together, right?
So somebody mentioned that after the autism conference in Penn State, there was a lot of talk. And this is just something that somebody else told me about measuring happiness. Is that? I mean, to me, that makes so much sense because if I'm miserable, if I'm hungry or miserable, whatever it is, you're not getting anything from me that day.
Right.
So that clearly should have a place, and that seems.
It's affect, yeah. So how do they?
So when you say affect, I'm thinking when you talk to a baby, or is that tone, or is that both?
It's both. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So affect is what?
Can you give us an example?
Yes.
So maybe when you're playing I'm gonna get your little toes.
Yeah.
How do you show that excitement, that anticipation, right?
Yeah.
That anticipation's one of our floor time strategies to really expand that shared attention and that engagement. So they're looking at you with oh no, something exciting is gonna happen.
Right.
You're gonna get your toe. So how do you kind of expand that shared moment together?
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there an age that you stick with?
I've always worked from 3 to 21.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I didn't know you could. Hold on. That just changed everything. Okay, because I was just assumed that DIR therapy would be for younger kiddos.
Well, it's basically goes off the functional, emotional, developmental capacity. So typically, Dr. Stanley Greenspan, he created the functional, emotional, developmental capacities, the FEDCs. And so typically from FEDC 1 through 6, typically you meet those when you're in up to kindergarten. Right. But there are, development isn't linear, right? So we have some we might skip some steps, right? Or we might have difficulty with that shared social problem solving, right? And we're just, maybe their kid's really independent and just wants to do everything on their own and not share in that shared world together. So how do we bring them into that world? How do we have the child do to us instead of us doing to them?
So this seems to me to be more important than so many things. And not more important, equally important. And I can't imagine it not being covered. Am I red? I get red when I do this. I'm going to turn it back to you guys. that happens. And I'm not nervous, right?
You're excited.
Yeah,
You're
but it just happens. It happens when I drink too. So forget about it. But
I'm teasing. I get to tease Lindsay.
so
But you were saying that it is an important piece to the
yeah,
puzzle.
it
because
seems
I
like
think
that would be as equally, if not more important than other things.
And I think that, like on that note, there are so many, like Rachel said, today's a great day to talk about choice. There's so many things out there in this community that work, and they work for each individual based off of their needs. So, I don't think we are here sitting today saying one is better than the other by any means. I think we, as OTs, really like this idea of, growth and expansion in our profession, and we're getting better, right? We're doing better. There's more resources, education out there on how connection-based therapies and relationship-based therapies are the foundation for progress.
Right.
Without the parent-child connection, the caregiver-child connection, it's like kind of pushing a rock up a hill.
Yeah.
And so bringing it back to the family and back to what we believe to be true as, DIR and occupational therapy and just coming into the clinic and getting on the floor with your child and modeling and parent coaching and all those things, they're all as equally as important.
And this can be something that, I lost it. Never mind. Sorry. I had it and then it just went away. So we have some great flyers that we're going to be posting that have some information on it into the links after we're done. And we'll also connect you with the, Well Nurtured website or Facebook page, whatever we have there. And then one of the things that we really want to encourage our families to just continue to get out, because I think that's the number one problem. No matter where you're going, get out. And it'll be better if you have those relationships with your children, because like you said, that'll help you get through life. I mean, so I just think that that's amazing. So what else do we have on DIR therapy? We have a flyer here that we're going to post, but we have it to show.
We were talking about goals before, and I think that was what I wanted to discuss with this.
So I'm going to bring this down.
So really, just thinking about, this is the learning tree, and thinking about regulation is really just the roots of everything. Floor time is a bottom-up approach, so really focusing on, their individual differences of, how do they respond to the environment around them? How do they respond to affect, to make that emotional meaning? What is their auditory processing like? What is their sensory processing like?
Yeah. And
then, once we can kind of figure that out, then we can go into more of the trunk, which is where our goals lie of, we'll post this for everyone we'll share this because this is such a great picture. But so these are the FEDCs on the trunk here.
Right.
And then, once we get that base foundation, then we can really root to rise.
Yeah. Well, and we're all about a good gardening, plant here with our garden program. So, we're going to post that in there so that everyone can see it. But, you can have the information. I love it. Schools like, or daycares even. We send things home. I'm like, I don't really look at one paper. And even if I do look at it, it's probably a week later. So that's why we want to get the information out to parents as quickly and as efficiently. And nobody reads anything. Nobody reads anything. And that's the thing. It's like, even if they did read it, though, even if they got it that day and they read it that day, who was showing them how to use it? And that's the frustration that gets to me. It's like, you gave me something. I have an art degree, okay? And that's not the good kind of art where I'm like drawing and painting. It's like, it's like space and office. I can craft like a mofo. I'm not saying that. Look at our space, right? But when we do art lessons, it's not me, okay? So, but that's the thing. It's like if somebody's not here to show you how to implement it, it's completely useless. And because how often are you able to go back to school to learn something that you guys went to school for? That's your career. And that's just not realistic. So looking at you guys as teachers to the parents more so than just related services for the children is what I want to get across in this more than anything else.
Yeah. And go ahead.
I was just going to say, parents are also teaching us too. They know their
Yeah.
kid the best, and we want to empower them to make choices for their child as well.
Yeah, and it comes down to the parents. I mean, frankly, if school can do what they can do, daycare, you guys, but at the end of the day, if you're not carrying it home and you're not implementing it in the right way, you're the one the parents are the ones responsible for their child.
Yeah, and it takes, they say, oh, it takes a village. I kind of hate and love that at the same time, but it does. It does take a village of people, not even when your child's, a baby, but like throughout the lifetime,
Yeah.
And I feel like a nurture just by nature, and I don't have my own children, but like a mother of many because it takes a village, right? And I just think that even if you have these resources and you need a 15-minute, parent call or you want more information, those are free services, right? We don't charge for those, just call-ins and hey, what do you think about this? Even if you don't know if your kid might need services and you just want to ask those questions, you're not wasting anybody's time. Like, we're here for that.
Resources and information are free.
Yeah.
Anytime you're doing anything through PAU, and it's connecting for the bigger picture, and there's no amount of competition, whether it's a for-profit or a nonprofit. It's 1 in 36, almost 1 in 33 now for kids with autism, and that's just autism. That doesn't include everyone else who's suffering on all because DIR. That's the question. DIR is not just for autism, right?
Correct.
We're
all neurodiverse.
Yeah.
Anyone. Yeah.
So that was the question. I'm glad I
signing
came
up
back
for a
up.
session tomorrow. We can all use a little floor time.
I use it on my husband all the time.
Yeah,
He's
on my
like, where's the ketchup? I'm like,
It's like that King of Queens.
Yeah.
Where are the scissors?
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God, if you ask me one more time where the scissors are, how would you ever live if I weren't here?
Yeah. He's caught on now. He's like, you're floor timing me.
If you were to, is DIR therapy something that you could do anywhere? Or is it something that you prefer? Obviously you prefer to do it in a setting that is, for you designed to, it's designed for that specifically. Yeah. But say somebody wanted to do a community visit and not in-house inpatient. I don't know the correct.
The clinic, right.
So is that something that you guys can do anywhere? Like speech can be done anywhere.
Yeah. Yes, it could be done anywhere, but I would like to have a foundation first of building that relationship.
Right. You schedule that after, almost like if a kid gets complacent and they're like, oh, they're done with being in that spot, that place. Maybe the sign coming in is triggering. Oh, the one coming through the rock cut, Jackson would start saying, oh, you can't afford it. I'm like, what are you talking about? It's like, oh, it's the DUI sign coming through the rock cut. I'm like, perfect timing, buddy. But I'm just saying, and then when it was going to the school, it was no drugs allowed. He always picks the best ones. But no, and I just say that because sometimes we have early intervention community visits here. We could do speech or, you can use different spaces for different things.
It's a great question.
And floor time can be used for earlier intervention as well.
Right,
I'm just typically stuck to my 3 to 21s, but I'm slowly going.
Well, I feel like birth to 3.
I'm.
If it's birth to 3, it's normally, in my experience, it's a much more clear type thing. Unless.
And I would say, just on that note, because I think that's my niche is 0 to 3 and infants, and maybe it's not called floor time, but
tummy time.
Tummy time. Starting that relationship from when they are coming right out of the womb is so important, and it's a struggle for a lot of moms and not talked about enough, and that's a whole other conversation I think we could have about postpartum and that whole first year of life and all the other just comorbidities they might have already struggled with prior to having a child, and we do actually offer a lot of services for maternal
So many.
and infant health, and as OTs, that is part of our scope of practice. So we do work with a lot of moms and infants, and actually we're running a little infant massage group at Long Live Playtime on Thursday. And
Very cool. That
yeah.
flyer will be posted.
Yeah.
And Long Live Playtime is killing it out there in
They are
Edwardsville.
killing
So excited to see all of that. We have the flyer here. We're gonna.
This is
a
our,
different flyer. Go ahead, Rach.
and this is our new
sorry.
nonprofit community, Well Nurtured Community Fund. We are having our first fundraiser at Long Live Playtime.
Oh,
November
two
25th.
events with Long Live Playtime.
Yes,
Wonderful.
I know. We
No,
love
this
them.
is exciting.
Yes. So come join us. It is free. You just have to register. So we will have games for your kids, and we're gonna have basket raffles and food, and
And I'm
it's
going to
be a lot of
say
fun.
this for everyone's sake. Register because you have to register.
Yes.
But if you register, show up.
Yes.
You need to show up. All of us put our time and effort into these things, and it's free. That doesn't mean it doesn't have value. And I'm just saying that because it's a trend. That's a horrible trend, especially since COVID, and we get it. It sucks getting out.
Yeah.
But it's going to suck worse when that's all you do for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Get out.
Yeah. Get out and connect.
Yes. Is there any other things that you would like to throw out there? Any big misconceptions or like the overall anything that you just want to say, hey,
Yeah, I think I'd like to add, and I'm sure you have something brewing in your brain too. Some like big misconceptions about occupational therapy, just in general. That we only focus on, handwriting, or we focus just on school-based tasks, or we focus just on getting dressed. I think the
all very important things.
all very important things, but the umbrella of occupational therapy is very wide, and when you're thinking about what OT does for children specifically from 0 to 21 and for parents is building those connections, those relationships through functional activity. OT is based on functional outcomes, and so it's just coming back to function. What is function? What's function for a baby?
Breaking it down.
Rolling, crawling,
Yeah.
walking, talking, smiling, cooing, learning cues. What is function for a child that might not be coming in for handwriting? It's play skills, and it's visual attention and connection with their parent, and it could be working on specific things like feeding. Of course, those things are so important and make such a difference in a family. But just kind of thinking outside the box and more of a non-traditional occupational therapy lens, we see all those kids coming into our clinic and those families, just because I think our goal is and has always been to help the family as a whole,
Yeah.
so that kid could thrive.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Just thinking, just to piggyback off what Mary said, with play, like play is the child's occupation, right? So
Oh,
it's-
that sounds good. I'm going to use
right?
that.
That's how we learn and develop. And for a lot of the kiddos that I see, and the parents, what the parents say, my kid doesn't play, he doesn't do anything, he just lines up toys. But that is their play. That's what they're doing.
Well, and there's that it's scientific, right? Like if you're trying to learn something new, like a new thing, if you're learning it while somebody's upset, it takes 300 times plus, but if you're learning it while you're playing, it takes 10 times. It's ridiculous,
Yeah.
but it's science.
Yeah, it is.
I keep going back to Breaking Bad, but I'm not going to say it.
No,
But
it's true.
teaching how to build and expand upon their ideas, right?
Yeah.
And giving them more ideas, their motor planning.
Well, and that's why I get a lot of parents say, "Oh, I'm not crafty," and it's like they don't care what your snowman looks like.
Yeah,
They really
nobody
don't.
cares.
Stop holding yourself to this super high standard.
Honestly.
That snowman that you did is amazing, and it's a rock star.
And I think some people think this is common sense, and it might be common sense, but it's just one thing that I offer to parents who are super busy and taking some of our strategies and recommendations. But just give your child 20 minutes a day, of one-on-one undivided attention.
It's crazy how hard that
20
sounds
minutes, start
when you
there.
dedicate
Just start
time.
Yeah.
And then you realize you're like, I haven't been doing that.
Well, make it 5 minutes. scale it back.
Well, it's just, you start.
know?
You do 1 minute today. You
Right.
do, I'm just,
Right.
and that's
Scale
like
it
the
back.
diet thing or the workout thing, right? I play with my kids all the time. I'm not saying I don't, but setting aside that time for like straight through, you don't realize how many times you walk away. So then you think you played for 2 hours, but you really only played for 10 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is what I was trying to get, and it didn't come out right the first time around.
Even
made
just
perfect sense.
watching your child too to get information, and we say wait, watch, and wonder. Like, what will they do next? What are they going to do?
Oh,
with
I
it,
love that.
We
I
love
absolutely love. It's like Undercover Boss or something.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing that I can say to parents is do video logging, and that was on when the first things I did with Autism Speaks website was take video logs because I couldn't explain to you what he was or was not doing. So I started taking video logs, and then I couldn't store them, so I created his Facebook page, right? And so, but the biggest thing that you can do is take videos so that you can, and if your kid is like, hide that phone somewhere. Get super creative, ladies. We're all detectives out there. We all know how to do things like that.
No, 100%.
I love doing that in our floor time sessions too. I love taking videos, just so I can review it with the parents too, or the caregiver, and just to say like, hey, like look at what he did right there. Oh, I missed that.
Oh,
'Cause
if he
we
could
don't
have a
catch it
camera all the time, that'd be amazing.
Yeah.
But you
And the
can't.
recording
You
that we
don't.
do, we have a hidden camera, so we can always pull video. And
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, it's on the docket for here, but we'll get there. Well, thank you guys so much, and
thank you,
we'll be
Lindsay.
posting a lot of things in this thread, like the flyers and just information, links, all these great things, and if we wanted to dive further into another topic based like branching, we're gonna
Yes, like the branching.
branching off of the tree. Then we'll definitely have you guys back. These are short, dirty, and quick, and it's not about anything other than getting the information to the families in a way that all of us can understand it.
Yeah, and thanks for just having this platform that's comfortable, easy, and just
Wear a
relaxed.
turtleneck next
And I
time.
could just relax my shoulders,
Yeah.
like you said.
So yeah, I'll do a turtleneck next time.
But we appreciate all that you're doing as well. So
Yes, thank
thanks
you so
for the
much, Lindsay.
community, and stop by at Parenting Autism United. There's lots of goodies to check out.
so much parking.
So much parking, and Lindsay Dragon is a hoot.
Wow.
So much fun to be around.
We're always here
and
to
we're-
entertain everyone
of
else.
course. I know, and just like a really great resource for the community. Seriously, so thanks for everything.
Thanks,
you're doing.
ladies.
Yeah,
Now
thanks
we
for
get
having
to get to enjoy all the great new things, and this is killing me. But no, thank you all again so much. And if you have any questions, put them in the thread. Both Mary and Rachel are on Facebook and can answer you directly, or you can always email us. Go to our website parentingautismunited.org. You can.
Also add my email and my,
Yep.
my phone number.
Yeah.
They could call me directly for any
Yeah,
questions.
we'll throw it all in there. So thank you all, and we'll see you next one.
Thank you.